Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. Against Levia, we would choose to go second if we could. Having lost the die roll, we will be going first. This is a pretty simple game plan. Levia will be playing a little more aggressively into us than she might into other heroes, but at her core, Levia is a mid-range deck. She can deal significant damage, but she should be playing a little more defensively than we will. She's still looking for her Art of War turns, her Blood Rush Bellow turns, still looking to go above rate with 4 or 5 card hands. She has a decent amount of go again. She runs Hooves of the Shadow Beast that let her cheat action points if she doesn't have a Dread Screamer or a Shadow Realm Horror, but she is looking to fill her graveyard so that she can play her banish attacks. Dread Screamer, as I've already mentioned, Shadow Realm Horror are her better turn extenders that also require her to have cards in her graveyard to banish. So expect Levia to block more than you would as Kayo. Levia's endgame engine also depends on having banished cards with Blood Debt that she can then play as a 5th card in hand after flipping into Blasmafet. Our game plan is to try to end the game quickly so that she has fewer opportunities to banish cards with Blood Debt to pay after flipping, or the best case scenario is that we push Levia to 13 health or lower before she can flip to Blasmafet. And if we can do that, then we keep her off of her endgame win con. If we can push Levia past 13 without her having flipped, our game becomes a lot easier because she is a lot more likely to kill herself with Blood Debt before she can kill us. When she's in Blasmafet, she can deck herself out, but she cannot die to Blood Debt. So we are looking to convert hands to offensive value, get over her blocks, get over her Carrion Husk. Levia is a brute, so she has access to Scowling Fleshbag, Apex Bonebreaker. Running Hooves, as I said, though she could run Scabskin Leathers potentially, depending on her build. We are just going to look to go over the top. To that extent, we are running the Weakest Link. Levia has at least 10 non-blocks in her deck, so Weakest Link very likely to be online. To compensate for having put a generic in our deck, we are cutting Enlightened Strike. Despite E-Strike being a turn extender, we just want to make sure that our Blood Rush turns are more likely to get 4 or 6 points of value If we're getting 2 points off of a Blood Rush because our hand was E-Strike into Mandible Claw into Command and Conquer, that's pretty terrible. And we are also putting in Yellow Pulping, taking out Pack Hunt because Levia doesn't really play defense reactions, so the Pulping is unlikely to get turned off. There's nothing else to say, we're just going to jump into it. Going first is interesting because on the one hand, we want to set up for a future turn by making our might with Assault and Battery. We can also make Agility, but we ideally are just passing the turn so that Levia cannot get value out of blocking. If we attack with Assault and Battery or Bare Fangs, we are giving Levia the opportunity to block from hand, put cards into her graveyard, to fuel those Screamers, Shadow Realm Horrors, Boneyard Marauders, whatever it is. That said, this hand is really bad if we just pass. We don't have any go again, we don't have any wind-ups. We aren't really getting value out of this aside from denying value to Levia. And because we have Red Bare Fangs, one of the best cards to pair with Agility, I actually am willing to break that rule of not letting Levia filter on turn 1 by playing Assault and Battery, pitching Assault and Battery, and discarding Bare Fangs to beat Chest. We don't push damage, we fuel Levia's graveyard, but we are setting up for a very powerful turn 2, and that is something I like to see. Levia blocks out, understandably. We do get 2 reds out of her, which is nice in the early game, but definitely has the potential to screw us up in the late game. Blood Rush Bellow coming in. Levia now has 4 cards in discard. Not a hand that I want to flashback off of right now. What I may want to do as the turn goes on is look at blocking with Savage Sash so that we can think about breaking it on our turn 2. But Levia, being Brute, has access to Send Packing, Command and Conquer, Weakest Link, all of our tricks. And I am definitely on board with saving armor for whatever the disruption is going to be. This is a situation where I actually would want to block with Fleshbag, and I want to say, playing this game, that I was so tunneled in on saving armor to stop the disruption that I just didn't think about Fleshbag value here. Levia has no floating resources. Off of 1 card, there is very little she can do to us. She has Ghostly Visit and Smashback Alehorn, I believe, are the only 2 cards that she could play, and Ghostly Visit, as I very quickly pull up FaB, may even cost 1? Yeah, Ghostly Visit not even playable off of a 1-card hand. So Levia, to my knowledge, has exactly 1 card that she could play out of her entire deck, and that is Smashback Alehorn. If we block with Fleshbag here, I'm fairly certain that Levia's turn just ends, and she takes an intellect penalty. So not blocking with Fleshbag here, 100% mistake. Additionally, as your games against Levia go longer, you will find that it is harder to get Fleshbag value out of Levia, because once you start putting her in that 20 life range and her blood debt starts to build up, her game plan can very easily pivot from converting 4-card hands on offense to blocking 6, sending 6. If she is just blocking with 2 cards, attacking with a Boneyard Marauder, blocking with 2 cards, attacking with a Shadow Realm Horror, banishing from the graveyard to build up that blood debt in Banish before she inevitably flips, and just having a massive amount of cards in Banish to play with the 4 cards that she's drawing. So if you can get Fleshbag value against Levia, you absolutely should, because the longer the game goes, the less likely you are to get any value above 2. So not blocking with Fleshbag here, 100% mistake. I would really love to have done that. And we can even see, yes, Levia plays the Command and Conquer. We have saved our armor. We get to put Sash, Bonebreaker, Leathers in front of the CNC, break Sash on our turn, and just really go nuts with it. But if we had flesh bagged, the turn comes back to us. We even can block with flesh bag and sash, block 4 on a 5 power claw, be at 34 here, and Levia just does nothing. She just has to pass the turn. So absolutely lost value on the flesh bag. 100% mistake not to block with it. That said, we do only take 10 off of a Blood Rush turn, and with the turn coming back to us, we have a really strong turn lined up. So thinking about resources, we have 5 available in our hand. We would really love to hit 6 so that we can play Bare Fangs, Wild Ride, and Swing Big. Additionally, if we could work a Mandible Claw into the turn, that would be insane as well. What I would like to do with this hand is break Savage Sash to start, follow with Swing Big, pitching Mighty Windup. The Swing Big attacks for 9 with Go Again. At this point, we're floating 2 resources and have Wild Ride, Agile Windup in hand. So we are fairly immune to Flesh Bag. If Flesh Bag Flesh Bags our Wild Ride, we spend our 2 resources on Mandible Claw, pitch Windup to play Bare Fangs from Arsenal, Wild Ride. If Flesh Bag banishes Agile Windup, we make the same play, just pitching Wild Ride for Bare Fangs. And while Agile Windup in Arsenal isn't the best card to have, it certainly isn't the worst. By starting with Swing Big, we are guaranteeing that we keep our Wild Ride, whereas if we play Bare Fangs first, there is a decent chance that we discard our Wild Ride, and now our turn looks a lot worse, especially if we are breaking Sash. So starting with Swing Big just guarantees that we have a Wild Ride follow-up to this, which is really what I want. I think undid the line. Let's see what I'm thinking instead. Yeah, I just don't think that Bare Fangs here is the play. We luck out in that we now have a Command and Conquer, so that regardless of what we do with Wild Ride, our turn is still solid. Here we are still safe from Fleshback. This really just worked out. We lucked into this, but I don't think this was correct. I think saving Bare Fangs for the end of the turn rather than the start was going to be fine. The only thing, if I was thinking about it, was how do I guess if I am protecting against Fleshbag, then starting with a draw discard effect means that I can always attack with my Mandible Claw. Whereas if I open with Swing Big and my Wild Ride gets Fleshbagged away, then my Claw does not have Go Again. In that case, though, we just play Bare Fangs from Arsenal and then discard Agile Windup to make a Might and Agility, and put a Wild Ride into the Arsenal for the next turn. So if I'm playing around Fleshbag, trying to make sure Claw is on, then the Bare Fangs makes sense. But I think we also have such a high chance of just drawing kind of bad cards and discarding our good cards that I don't like that line. Levia, to this point, has taken all of the damage. So we get to decide if we want to Swing Big or Weakest Link here. And if Levia is keeping cards in order to convert 4 cards to offense, she already has 5 cards in discard. She can play something, break the chain, put a 3rd card into discard if she's, banished 3 to a Dread Screamer. I do think we need to consider an Art of War, Wild Ride, maybe a Deadwood Rumbler as her blue to pitch. So I like Weakest Link here instead of Swing Big as the finisher. Just putting Levia into a position where she either needs to block to protect something, or she just takes 6, we Arsenal a Swing Big, and now we know what her hand is. There is also value in just knowing what is in your opponent's hand because they had to reveal it to a Weakest Link. We see Doomsday was the non-block that Levia was looking to protect. She banishes 3 Blood Rush cards, Blood Debt cards, which is insane. We also have Blue Dread Screamer for 5 Go Again. This is not something that I am considering blocking. We could put a Flesh Bag in front of this, which would not be the worst thing to do. Levia certainly has a number of 1-card plays. If this is a Graveling Growl or a Skittering Shadowpede, Levia does have a way to play out this last card. We have a Command and Conquer in hand, so there is value to Flesh Bagging just to make sure that our CNC has a target. Not that I would open with CNC, but it is an option to Flesh Bag here. I just don't think it's a good one. We're at 30. We can take 5 from this Dread Screamer, and if Levia has the Graveling Growl or Shadowpede follow-up, we'll go to 19. Our turn is going to look like Pitch Blue, attack with Mandible Claw, discard Windup to make Agility, Might, and Give Go Again. We are still resilient to Flesh Bag because we always have a red to pitch to our Swing Big and Arsenal, and regardless of which red gets banished, we are happy to Arsenal it. Both Bear Fangs and Command and Conquer work very well with Might and Agility. We do not see the Flesh Bag used here. Levia does not have an arsenal, so playing Command and Conquer definitely not the call. The question is, do we attack with Swing Big or do we attack with Bear Fangs? Bear Fangs works a lot better with Agility than Swing Big does because Bear Fangs with Go Again turns on our Mandible Claw. So we are going to Swing Big here, pitching Command and Conquer. At this point, we do also get blocks out of Levia. She can't just take Swing Big for 8, or else she goes to 13 and can no longer flip into Consumed. She does have 3 Blood Debt currently, so what she can do is block the Swing Big for 3, go to 16, pitch a blue, play something like a Command and Conquer, or Swing Big, something that doesn't turn off Blood Debt, and then flip. It does seem to be where this turn is going. With that in mind, it's possible that Command and Conquer was the right play, just because Levia would not have been able to block for 3, go to 16, and flip. That said, if she takes the Command and Conquer, with her being at 21, she can just not block it, go to 15, and then have a 4th card to play with before she flips. So kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It just depends on what this last card in Levia's hand is, though she is clearly valuing it lower than Yellow Graveling Growl. Flesh Bag here does absolutely nothing. Levia is not going to play this card, she's going to Arsenal it, so using the Flesh Bag is redundant. We have Might, we have Agility, we have Bear Fangs, Blood Rush, Send Packing. Our hand is really good. Kind of regardless of what we do, what the Blood Rush discards, if it discards Bear Fangs or Send Packing, our turn is still very strong. So I'm just not going to block here. We're at 13. If we take this 6, we're at an effective 17 with all of our armor. We still have Flesh Bag as a defensive option. This is going to be absolutely okay. Levia flipping into Blasmafet is really strong. Something to note about Blasmafet is the interaction with Send Packing. Send Packing banishes your opponent's card face up. Blasmafet says that any card that gets banished face up is turned face down and can no longer be interacted with. So, because the card is now face down, regardless of whether Levia takes the Send Packing damage, she doesn't get her card back. So Send Packing is not conditional disruption, it is guaranteed disruption if Levia has an arsenal. And with that in mind, it might be worth just playing Send Packing for 7 with Go Again and sniping Levia's arsenal. At that point, we pitch a yellow to play Bear Fangs from Arsenal. What we need to think about is Levia currently has a 5-card hand. A 6-card hand, she'll have 5 once her arsenal is gone. She does not have Go Again currently, at least that we can see in her banish, which is nice. Levia still has her Flesh Bag, she still has her Husk. So while Send Packing Bare Fangs is cute, it is not doing significant damage, and yeah, Levia would only have 5 cards if we banish our arsenal. We're at 13. Like, we need to make something happen, so I do think it's worth going for Blood Rush, especially if our turn is Blood Rush, pitch 1 Roughshod, discard Send Packing, draw 2 blues. We still get to Bare Fangs from Arsenal, Mandible Claw, Bare Fangs from hand. Send Packing banishing the Arsenal is cute, but we need some power. We also have a 50% of getting to keep Send Packing after our Blood Rush, and we see that is what happens, which is extremely strong. So at this point, we have a very easy turn order. We attack with Send Packing, we pitch our Smash Instinct. We are now floating to resources with a Wild Ride in hand and a Bare Fangs in arsenal. We assume that Levia is going to Flesh Bag the Send Packing to banish our Wild Ride, at which point we play Bare Fangs from arsenal. We get our Wild Ride back at the end of the turn, and then we get to arsenal it for next turn. In a weird world where Levia doesn't Flesh Bag us, we get to attack with Mandible Claw and then pitch Wild Ride to attack with Bare Fangs. This is really the best possible situation. We get to Send Packing for 9 go again. Levia loses her arsenal, which in this case is a Dread Screamer. Fantastic. And we are resilient to the Flesh Bag. Levia gives us Husk, goes to 12. We still get to Bare Fangs for presumably 10, which is very easily putting Levia in kill range. Now we do discard a Blood Rush off the top. That is tragic luck for us. Bare Fangs still coming in for 8 is plenty of damage. But if you've been watching my videos this week, we are all over discarding Blood Rushes off the top. It's been happening to me in my paper games too. It feels really, really good. Really, really good. Levia plays the Art of War. Modes are going to be go again and banish to draw 2. We have an Endless Maw coming for 9 with go again. Levia does float 2 resources. Very likely that we Flesh Bag and she just plays the other card in her hand at the same time. That's fine. We're absolutely 100% going to Flesh Bag here, because at minimum Flesh Bag is just interacting with a Mandible Claw maybe. But this is what I'm talking about. The longer the game goes, the less likely you are to get good value out of your Flesh Bags. It's entirely possible that because Levia has not discarded to turn on Mandible Claw, this turn is just play a 2-cost attack, arsenal the other card, in which case our Flesh Bag is not getting significant value. But we are going to use it here. We'll take 7, we'll go to 6. We're holding on to 2 more pieces of armor just for whatever. We can block from hand if we need to, but we are ideally looking to open with a Pulping, then go with Wild Ride. So here we've got Mandible Claw coming in for 5. We could stop this damage completely if we block with 2 blues from hand. That's a terrible line and we would never do that. We could go to 1, but we don't want to do that. We still have Beast Withins in our deck, and we want to play around Reckless Swing when it's possible for us to do so and still win the game. And in this case, it very easily is. We could block with Bonebreaker and Leathers, take 3 down to 3. That puts us out of range of getting killed by Reckless Swing and Beast Within. It does not put us out of range of getting killed by Reckless Swing and Beast Within. So what we may want to do here is actually block for 5 with Bonebreaker, Leathers, and Mighty Windup. If we do that, then we are pitching our blue to attack with Pulping, which comes in for 7 with Go Again Dominate, very likely. We are putting Levia down to 1 because she can cover the 7 with a 3-block and Bonebreaker. Then we pitch whatever card we draw to attack with Wild Ride from Arsenal for 6. Levia gives us 2 more cards, keeps 1, and just attacks us with something from Blood Debt. I don't think that's good enough, so I think we want to just block with our 2 pieces of armor and go to 3, and just hedge on not getting Beast Within Reckless Swinged. Because if we keep an extra blue, we have an extra card in hand, which very likely pays for a Mandible Claw. And if we pay for Mandible Claw, our chances of winning go way up. If nothing else, we're just stripping Levia's hand, but also potentially killing her through a non-block. Opening with Wild Ride just guarantees that we keep Go Again in hand. We also get lucky enough to keep a blue, and the Wild Ride doesn't miss. So at this point, the game is basically locked up because we get to Mandible Claw Weakest Link. We can go for the big play with Wild Ride, hopefully drawing into another 2-cost something. But worst case, we do just Mandible Claw and manage to get there through Levia having a non-block. Really good game for us. We definitely had some good luck on our side, some good variants, where outside of the Bear Fangs missing and discarding a Blood Rush, we just drew really well. Having Send Packing on the Blood Rush turn to turn off Levia's Dread Screamer in Arsenal was fantastic luck for us. This game looks a little different if we don't keep the Send Packing, if we lose that 50%. At the same time, we were going to be pushing big damage with double Bear Fangs. We definitely missed using Flesh Bag correctly. It worked out for us, but we would have been in a much better position if we just block Mandible Claw with Flesh Bag and Sash. Levia takes an intellect penalty, and then we get to hit her for a lot of damage. Our Command and Conquer even does something at that point. So we could have tightened this game up for sure, but felt like I played this one well, properly managed Levia's Blood Debt. We didn't quite get there for turning off Plasma Fat, but Levia did need to take 3 damage to flip, which is pretty good. We are happy for her to take 3 in order to make that happen. She isn't always going to get lucky and banish 3 cards with Blood Debt from her 1 banish effect. But if you cannot push your Levia over flipping to prevent that from happening, the next best thing is to make her take a decent amount of damage to perform the flip. So I hope this was somewhat instructive on how to beat Levia. Not that I think I'm an expert on it, but I do feel like I've been turning losses into wins. If you have any, if you did enjoy this, if you learned something, be sure to take that like button to Pound Town. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free, helps me out a lot. I have a Patreon, I have a Twitter. Links to those are in the video description below. And until the next time I see you on Daily FaB Gameplay, take care.